our leaders, actually dialoguing with each other.
Hypocrisy of older people. You can see there's different elder councils from different tribal groups that are essentially running things and overlooking us young people.
Convince that person that, please, I am me, I'm not they.
Never even charged the boat. It was only me and my roommate.
Welcome to South Sudan today. My name is Myong Pond. You are watching us live in United States. Our topic tonight will involve number of experts, and I'm so happy that we will definitely, for the hour or so, be discussing some of the most important discussions or some of the most important topics of our show. I want to welcome all the viewers, those who have been watching with us before, those who are new, those who have joined us tonight. Please join us and we will be having a great topic. I think you have seen that. That's the topic that we'll be discussing tonight. I do have experts that will dissect what will be happening. But for now, I'm going to make sure that they are all here. Some of them are already here, and we are waiting for one more person to join, and definitely we will be coming in. I'm going to give you one more music for the next 30 seconds, and we will start our show. Thank you, and go ahead and watch.
Chudan ni maradoran, chudan ni marasiendan, chudan ni maradoran ni. Tegesi to liga to chuan dung kalau. Teka dan nimit ke, si belum namakarya, si belum namakarya, si belum namakarya. Ejeng kiciro, ejeng oketin, si belum namakarya. Nyandita utara la du dogomo, nyandita utara la du dogomo. Ay ay ay.
Welcome to South Sudan. Today, my name is Myong Kwant. We are live in the United States. Political power is the only currency that all leaders have. However, this is also the most misunderstood aspects of leadership. Leaders relate to power differently, and their beliefs about effective leadership are never the same. Why do power isolate leaders, turn individuals with great characters against those who helped them in the first place to rise to power? Does this apply to other kinds of leadership, such as faith-based and business leaders? In other words, good leadership is stress that carries mental disability may be the reason that causes leaders to change. Why do men with good characters change when in power? These are tonight's questions. But we do have our guest tonight. Paul Matur is a pastor and also an activist who lives in Tennessee. He will be joining us shortly. And also right here in the show, we have Dr. John Quack. Dr. John earned his BA in psychology, his master's in counseling, and his PhD in psychology. John became the first ever East African to be licensed therapist in San Diego, California. He is currently working as a marriage and family therapist. Welcome, John, to the show. Dr. Thach.
Thank you, Dr. Myong.
Dr. Galactus Thach also is well known on this show, and he has been on so many discussions. Dr. Thach has earned his bachelor in computer science and minor in mathematics from Tennessee State University. He earned his master in public services management and his PhD, management at Cumberland University. He earned his PhD in organizational leadership and management and Argosy University. No wonder why he has been giving us all this information about leadership. But first, let's welcome Dr. Thai. Dr. Thai, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mother Myung. Nice to see you. Nice to see
Nice
my
to
brother,
see you again.
Dr.
Yes.
Kweki.
Thank you. Dr. Kwek, we want to start with you. Tell us, this is how we've been doing in our show. These are our traditions. Tell us what is going on in California, specifically in San Diego. Not everything about what happened the whole week, but give us the highlight.
Well, so far so good. California weather, especially in San Diego, we have a bias. We often say we have the best weather in the country. It is warm, warmer than usual, but cooler than your weather, I would say. That's my bias right there. Beautiful so far.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And let's see if Dr. Thatch can beat that in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville weather has never been anywhere compared to California. We are in between Midwest and the West Coast weather. But lately, things have changed. We have not moved to Arizona yet, but it looks like our weather is so much closer to what is happening in Arizona. So that say, we're happy to see you. And what is going on in the big city of Omaha?
Well, in Omaha, the real name is Good Life. If you haven't been to Omaha, you are missing the good life in the Midwest or in the middle of America. Our weather is like South Sudan weather every day. I don't know about coming November, but I'm talking about now. So we have the best weather now. I think San Diego will beat us for a very, very short number of days, but we are doing very, very, very well. It's really getting hot here, but we are doing okay. Well, let's welcome our third person that is actually with us. Hey, brother, Pastor, and Paul Matur, welcome to the show. You were a little bit behind when we call you. Can you hear us, Paul? All right, you can sort that out with the young man. So, welcome to the show and questions right on. Why do men with good characters change when in power? And what I need here is one simple thing. And I'm sure you come from different expertise, and I want your answer based on what you know or how you can help, because this has been something that happens everywhere. Name it, what country you come from. A man, they say that if you wanted to know exactly what the character of a person is, of a man is, give him power. But based on all these things, I have highlighted earlier. So when a man in power completely is changed, Dr. Thatch, I want to start with you. And I want you to start within our community. Then we'll move further up. Go ahead.
People change because of the adversity. If we were to find out why people change when they are in power, when people are in power, they are in power to solve problems. And the characters is developed through the problem, through the adversity. We tend to say we know people, but really, you don't know a person until a person has faced a challenge. That's when their character really shows. And that's when we will know for sure whether the person that we know already is exactly the person that we have. So when we are in a good conditions, when we are not tasked to carry on the assignment, we are not leading anything, when we are not guiding any society, when we are not doing anything that we're supposed to do, then people seem to say that you are a nice guy, or you are this person or that person, until when they know who you really is, when you are now tasked to lead something and you face problems. Because leadership is developed it's developed out of it's actually made out of the character. And the character does not develop outside of anything else. It came out of the problem. And it's through the adversity that's when we develop when we know for sure who the person is. So that how do you face the challenge? How do you
Now,
address the issue? That's how
let's start at basic, so we get to that deep answer, because we are the lay people that want to understand this. Now, let's get to how the person get to power, because they tend before this person gets to power. And I will welcome Paul Matur. Welcome to the show. And your background seemed to actually not give you a good picture. If you can let it go, it's okay, so that we can see you better. I think the problem is your background. Here is the point, Dr. Thai. When someone wants to get somewhere, they have connections, they have friends, they get to talk to people. They want to make sure that what he or she wants is being helped by those around him or her. But once this person get to the power, the person change. I want you on that. And if you can have short answer so that I can have Dr. Quack and also the rest. Go ahead.
people change, like I say, when we want someone to lead us, we thought we know someone. Okay? We thought this person would deliver against what we want, the outcome we wanted to see, the change our community want. Okay? The society that needed to change would be changed by that individual.
Mhm.
But remember, leaders are need to lead. They're leading people out of the problem. If there are no problem, there is no need for leadership. Leader is needed because he or she is going to solve the problem. Now, when the person that we thought we know happened to be the one that starts now to carry on the operation, to carry on the objective, and solve the problem that he or she was supposed to do, that's when his real character will come out, and that's when we were really going to know whether we know the person as we thought we know, or the person we thought we know is really a different person. And that's exactly what we're facing now.
Dr. Quack, I think I'm going to mix it here so that we want to hear from your point of view. Our leaders, let me start with the leaders. Our leaders start to isolate themselves from us when they get the power. But there's so many things into this. It's not only that they are being challenged by everyone that's buying them, but many of these leaders, specifically in developed countries, many of these leaders come to power through a long war within the system that they get into power with. Now, why? Because we are not in a country where health of the person is first. How do we know that these leaders that turns into their own people are actually mentally healthy? Maybe we are blaming them for no reason. I want your perspective on that, Dr. John.
Well, first and foremost, Ambassador Myong, I want to thank you for bringing me on your show. My good brother, Dr. Said, happy to see you. And I'm also happy to see Reverend Captain Paul Mator Myong, who is also to join us shortly. Well, to answer your question about Myong, when we talk of leadership, okay, so leadership is something that we call someone a leader when someone is actually leading people. So now, to give you a short answer, when someone gets to power, to leading people, that person, anybody that gets to power has one goal. And the goal is to provide for people, right? And that goal is stay with that person, hoping that I get to power, I change life, okay? So once somebody gets to power, for the year, what happened? They are too ambitious. Too ambitious. What they will do, they will try to take things on by themselves without delegating to other people because they are so obsessed of solving problem. So the very first year you see, someone will get burned out because it's very rare for people to delegate power when they first get to power, to delegate some tasks when they first get to power. For many leaders, appointing someone to, ministers this, ministers that, ambassadors this, ambassadors that, they have their own roles. But when it comes to leadership, to central leadership, there are so many activities centered to the leader. And the leader will try to take all this on by himself. And that first year will be miserable. Then when we see people really begin to kind of, get angry, get frustrated with so many little things here and there. So it leads them to frustration, stress, sometimes anxiety. You will also see people even depressed. Okay? They will not talk nice because they are overwhelmed. That is the first year. The second year, they will learn that everything here cannot be taken on by one person. And then they begin to delegate power. That's when you see a leader kind of coming back, breathing. So I'm talking about developed country where people get to power through, a series of process, democratic process. Okay? And then people get there. So that is why you will see somebody trying to take everything on and burn out, as you hear it, happen within the first year. So the second year, as someone learned so much that all these things are too many, advice from surrounding members, they will begin delegating powers to people. That's when they begin to kind of breathe and take some self-care.
That's right. I want Pastor Paul to jump in, and I see you have your own South Sudan Republican Party. I can see that there roughly. I can read it. Actually, is gone. But someone like Paul, just with us, is a reference. We know him. You guys know him very well. Tomorrow you get to power, Dr. Fat. What would be the first thing that would change from him? Because I know something will change. But why? This is the point that I really want to get to people, that our viewers want to know, want to hear.
For Brother Paul, and if I say this, it would be because he's here on the table, on the podium with us. He's a very nice guy, a friend of mine. We live in the state of Tennessee together. He's a very is a God-fearing guy. One of what Dr. John mentioned earlier as a challenge to some of the leaders, the lack of delegation, which is pretty much, it has a lot to do with the quality within the leadership. One thing that I would know Paul will not do. Paul will not corrupt. He will fear God. Okay. He will also listen to people. But what I think can also change him is what always change good people. When you are in power and you are faced with challenges, because of course, like I said earlier, when you are facing with challenges, is when your exact character will show it. What we know now is not enough until you actually deliver something that belongs to all of us. And by then, there are things that we might not know about Paul that can happen when Paul became whoever he could become. And I think strategically, what make some leaders better than the others is them knowing that being in a political position is on a temporary basis. You are not there as the is a lifetime career. You are there to deliver. You have a strategic objective. You want things that you need to see happen in a very short period. When things do not go as you want them to go, then you can actually say, like some leaders have done, and you could take an example of the former Ethiopian Prime Minister, Ella Mariam, who, when he saw things that were not going well, he had to say, even in Africa, that I am going to resign, and but will not go anywhere. I will stay and support whoever is going to take the power. So when a leader is feared to it has a belief that's bigger than him, he has a strategic objective bigger than him, he has a vision for the country. If he or she think that he cannot deliver as such, he or she will always make a strategic decision, and that decision might not change his character, might actually reveal his character. We know people when they do things. We know people when they don't do things. We know people based on the result that they generated. Whether it is a result they will take a credit for, or it is a result that they will give credit for to the people that make them succeed. Now, when you define what make a leader, it's not the position that make a leader a leader. It is what you do in that position. And that actually is what defines your character in that position. Because 1 hour of the leadership is a long time, especially if it is a strategic hour. But 10 years or 100 years of an strategic leader could also be a waste of time. Because the only thing that people will know about that person, he has occupied but not delivered. He has led but never reached where he or she want to take people to. He has never done anything else. And now this actually became his character.
I want to bring Paul. I'm sure you can hear me. Go ahead and fix what you are working on. We are waiting for you. Go ahead and fix it. If you can use the wall as your background, that would be perfect. Dr. Dr. Kwep, I mentioned earlier that when leaders get into power, there are so many things involved. Before we blame them or before we lionize them, there are things that are happening as a leader. And you mentioned some of them earlier when you explained the first year becoming leaders. They divide this being a leader in the West and being a leader in the developed country. Even within developed country, there are some countries that are, I would say, semi-democratic nation, just like Kenya. Kenya is not very far from becoming with great democracy within the country. But one things that really change right away when leaders become into power, and that I want to hear from you, is the welfare of that very leader. You mentioned something very important, that people get stressed because they want out of what is happening. But why do leaders, their first enemy, their own friends, their own teammates, become their first enemies? Why?
Yes, it's very simple, Ambassador Young.
Yes.
We often talk about in my profession. We often talk about addiction. Okay, so addiction is when you do too much of one thing over and over for a long time. You addict to it. You become addicted to it, and then to remove that addiction takes a long time. You actually have to have something else to replace that. So when somebody gets to power, they have a very limited term in their mind, right? And they want to provide within this short time that they know they will return in leadership. Immediately when they get there and they try to take on things, they will not succeed right away in providing A, B, C, D, E. Pressure will come, right? Pressure will come from left and right that things are not going on right, okay? From the society, from within the leadership as well. There will be some people who are saying, oh, this thing is not going well in this region or that region or here or there, right? That is one thing, it creates stress. The second thing, after the first year, you actually, if you're a leader who got to power in the process, through that process, you become in love with attention. Okay? You are the center of attention, the spotlight, so to speak. Okay? Everywhere you go, cameras here. People are dancing over there. Right? So you become like a king like the best person in that country. So that attention itself is addictive. Later on, within that leadership, your surrounding leaders will be seen as somehow enemies at some point. Because when somebody tried to say, "Oh, something is going wrong," so your immediate reaction will go to, "Okay, he's thinking that maybe I'm not doing well. Maybe he's eyeing on my share." Okay, this is how leaders immediately change and turn around and see their running mates as enemies. Okay, they will see the very people that brought them, that helped them come to power, as enemies. Because being a center of attention on the spotlight is something very, very important. He does not want to lose. He can do everything. And that's why we see very good people with great characters turn to killers sometimes, right? In countries where people can deliberately kill other people, right? And that is because whatever says out there, whatever reports come from out there, is threatening that share. So this leader must do everything he can to protect that share. Addiction,
That's right.
leadership addiction. Okay? Even eating too much food is addictive. Too much. If you want to know why people turn and become completely different with different colors, is to protect the very share that give them this attention. That is the very short answer I can give you. That's why leaders turn toward their inmate and see them as enemy. They can even exterminate them, if you will. They can get rid of them. By all means, by the way, because they are not the one that pick up a gun and shoot, or a knife and stab someone. The system that they rule can even get rid of people, do away with people without even him knowing. Because people who are glorifying this particular leader also get used to this attention as well. Anything that comes close is a threat. That's my perspective.
Thank you. Brother Paul, well, we can see you better now. Thank you so very much. You are a presidential candidate, Paul Matur Manyok. I don't know what country, but now you actually fit our discussion here. You are a pastor, you are an activist, you are also someone that speaks so many languages. That's so great of you. Paul, how do you know that tomorrow you will not turn against us? That's what you've been listening. Go ahead.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what I'm asking here is the question
It was
about
breaking up.
great men are tense when they become and when they get into power. These great men completely change. And the question that our expert has been discussing in various ways is that it would be because they are the center of everything. They get exhausted. Part of it is that if you become a leader, you do not have the plan that you went there for. Could be another problem. But it's true that when man is in power, completely is changed, and most of the time, change to turn around his own people that help him get into that system. My question to you: you are a presidential candidate, Paul. You are Paul Matur Manyok. My question is, I don't know what country you are presidential candidate to because you are in the United States. Here is, how do we know? We know how you, as a pastor, a nice person that speaks German languages, you are friend to all of us here. But how do you know tomorrow that you will not turn against us?
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Miyong Gatwalkwan, for putting me together with this great man, Dr. John Quek, Malekwar, Galwagan,
Captain Paul, Captain and Reverend
Mala
Paul.
Dunia.
Male.
Mamuga.
Thank you. It's a great honor being with you guys. For some of you who don't know Ambassador Miyong Gatur, there is this video when current first vice president, and when he brave and heroic move, make sure that genocide don't take place in our country. He was the one that took that video. For some of you who are watching elsewhere, that is Ambassador Miyong Gatur Kwan. Thank you. It's a little bit of introduction, but he's a man that I've been with the media for an extended period of time. And I'm doing that because this is your country. The generation that have been taught what leadership is, they know from book that leadership is what leadership is, and that is something that you are welcome to and taught, prepared. There's something that I normally say, that great leaders are not known for who they are, but for the leaders they raise. I don't know how much time I have to answer that question. And actually, it's one thing.
I want you to make it short, because we all have to interact, all of us.
Great.
Go ahead.
A leader is someone there and his people where he has been. So sometimes we choose based on how person interact with people, how humble the person is, or how quiet the person is, depending on what area you are choosing the leader to go to. And sometimes when someone have what is known as intrinsic motivation as a leader to do what is required, and when I say intrinsic motivation that comes within. There's also extrinsic motivation, which have been mentioned by people like Dr. Taj and Dr. Kwek. That extrinsic motivation is a motivation that comes from outside. In my teaching now, because I'm a former UNHCR peace education facilitator. And so when you have that intrinsic motivation, you know that you are preparing people. And it's not easy. But
your audio
is trying to maneuver.
Can we check your audio?
Say that again.
Your audio is breaking up.
I see.
It's either your internet connections or yeah.
You're saying a good thing.
It's
You're
one
saying
of
a
the
good
two.
thing. But
Go ahead.
That's what is known as colonization. So, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Young, can you hear me, Ambassador?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Sometimes when it comes to leadership, it comes with the territory and the part. For example, I as an officer, and my work was observed where I was working. The description, the job description is different, and then got promoted from officer all the way to lieutenant. The job description of lieutenant is slightly different from the job description of an officer. Responsibilities increase, and not only do they increase, there are things, there are policies within that particular organization that you are working for, and also there are other policies that work within this. So when you are going by the book, people there and haven't seen what you are in, they will not know. They will not know that the territory. the responsibilities increase, and the job description plus all this external agitation or whatever it is, you have to marry the two somehow. But the most important thing is for you leader, you not to be compromised. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Dr. Thai, you want to jump in that?
Well, I think the questions has already been answered, but there are more into it. Which, if you look at into the perspective of the leader scholar, uh, what is actually is defined in leadership is that leaders are expected to change when they are in a position of power. They are there to change, to make a change. Because if you go to anything and you are not changing it, you're not supposed to go there in the first place. And also, if you are making a change, you are also expected to change as well. The challenge into this particular question that you have asked is that yes, if a leader is going to make a change, a strategic change to serve the life of human being, why would a leader like that, who was supposed to change the life of his people from where they're supposed to be, where they are to where they were supposed to be, and instead of doing that, what he promised to do, which is, Paul is a presidential candidate, I believe, for South Sudan. And we all know what is going on in South Sudan. So if Paul is chairing his platform now, he will say things like, I want to change the people's life. I wanted to create the opportunities. I wanted to bring the unity within South Sudan, and et cetera, and et cetera. So for him to do this, he will also have to change himself, because this is what is expected of a human being. Now, the question, I think, the broader question is, if your goal is to do that, and instead of doing that, you're doing the opposite of what you say, then what change of what you told people? Were you lying to them, or you actually became what now be seen because of you? This is actually reveal your real character, or something else happened. So I think that's exactly what I would see be the discussion. Because even if you are not talking about the developing nation, you're talking about the developed country. In the Western world, for example, we have seen promises from a number of the political leaders who told people in their rally, on their initial campaign, that I am going to go to becoming your leader because I'm going to deliver you out of this situation. I'm going to do X and Y and Z. People will put their hand together. People will put their resources together. People will put their time together, hoping that when this X becoming a political power, it will deliver people out of the objective that he actually made. So what happened when that person assumed that role? Things changed. He actually ended up doing things worse than they were before then. So what is that? What has happened? Is it because they have a psychological issue? Stress overwhelming them, like Dr. Kwame was talking about it, or is it because they don't have an extensive leadership power, like the Reverend Paul was talking about? I think it is both. But if you can look into it, research has shown that effective leaders who are actually doing well, they are strategic thinker. And the strategic thinking skill is a skill that leader has to develop. Only 3 out of 10 people are strategic thinker. Only 3 out of leaders are strategic thinker. So strategic thinking is a skill that needed to be developed by so many leaders. So successful leaders are 99% strategic thinker. So the only 30% of our leaders in the world are strategic thinker and are successful leaders. So the question is that how can a leader develop a strategic thinking skill to be a strategic leader, to go after the strategic goal and objective, to make a change that he or she promised? And what changed when they are actually guided, counseling, and support and help by experts, by consultants. And they were told they developed their goal and objective and all that. What changed? Why did they not follow on those? Why are they not strategic in implementing them? What changed? Is it because they are overwhelmed? Was it because they see things now and they prioritize different things than what they went there for? Is it because of the resources? Because now resources is becoming also another issue. Because people have access to money. Now, when they have access to money, access to power, then maybe their face, their eyes is crowded. It's crowded with all this. And then now they shift from what they were supposed to be to what now they become are. And that actually defines the character. So I would say if a community chose a community leader, they have to make sure that this community leader develop its strategic thinking skill. Because it is that strategic thinking skill that allows the leader to develop his insights that can be shifted to his strategy. Because the insight you generated individually is what will convince you, even if you have a surrounding team, if your surrounding team are coming to against what you actually wanted to see happen, you will disagree with them. But if you don't have the insight, if you don't have the background, you can be shift right and left. You will actually be running other people's objectives. You wouldn't be knowing exactly what your vision is. You wouldn't really you're just going to be sitting on a chair that you don't even know what is under or behind or even on top of the chair. And that's exactly the problem.
Now,
This is not a problem in Africa alone. It's a problem all over now. And it has to be fixed.
All right, I think someone has a radio or a phone that echo our voice. So if you can turn it down, then it will be much better. Dr. Thaj, I want also for the rest of our experts to pick it up from here. The problem is this: it's not only that you must have strategic thinking as a leader, or you must have a sure way of doing it as a leader. The problem is when you become a leader, whether you are strategic or not, you are not with the people that actually brought you to where you are. That's one. Second, what is the leader's job? Leader's job is not just to change life. Leader's job is to guide for people to change life.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Well, so on one time I talk about 2L, 3L. So 3L will answer your question in a very short brief. The leader really is the last L out of the two. But here, the first one is to listen. You listen from your people. You listen from what people want, your constituencies. What is the problem your people are facing? What is it that your people want to see you solve? That is the first thing. You have to listen to that. After you listen to that, you learn from that listening. And now, when you learn the problem, when you learn what is needed to be done, you have to get the right people, the technical people, the people who know what to do. And then you have to lead them, your last L.
Now, I have a question, another question on that first L before you get to the other two L's, right?
Yes. Yes.
I hear you now, and you are talking not only that you are in the United States, but your reference seems to be in the western part of the world. Let's talk about someone who is a commissioner somewhere in Wanding, or somewhere in Motot, or somewhere in Bor, and you know the level of education of these people. How can you listen to them when they come and tell you that, hey, my cousin has been eloped and all I need to do is to attack them? What do you get from that?
People in Wanding, take Wanding for example, because I would say Wanding because that's exactly where I was born. So,
Okay.
so let's take Wanding. Wanding in general, they have things that are needed by the community. They need the protection. They need the peace with their neighbor, with Morule, with Anyok, with the Lonur. They need to live in peace with them. They need to have the agriculture. They need to have they need to develop their thing. They need to have access to school. They need to have access to a model healthcare. They need to be able to do things to themselves. So those are the things that are strategic for the community. Now, as the commissioner of that Wanding, I will prioritize on what we can do together as people of Wanding. Okay? What is it the priority number one? Is the security. How do we develop security with our neighbor? How do we make sure this thing happens? I wouldn't do it alone. I would need their help. I would need the neighbor help. I would need the other people in the area help. Okay, after the security, now, what do we need to do collectively to actually develop Wanding where we can have a small school, we can also have a clinic, and we also have a mobility within the area. That can also be done. If there's no resources somewhere else, there is enough resources in Wanding. If there is a security, people can make things happen in Wanding that can actually make them live in peace and even develop themselves. So those are the things that the leader, if I listen to what is needed, we just also know, if I learn from that, together with my community, we can work together now and prioritize one thing. The problem of some leader is that when you have 5 problems, you can't solve all the 5 problems at the same time. You must be strategic. And this is why I'm repeating the word strategic, is because you don't know where, you cannot get to anywhere you want to go if you don't really know where you're going. You have to know where you're going. And to go to that area, you have to know what do you need to have to go there with, to take you there. Is it going to be driving, walking?
Hold on to that thought, because I want you to finish it. I want Paul and Dr. Quack. You both come from Jonglei. You both come from 2 different communities. Paul is from Denka. You are from Nuer. You are all educated. And Paul speaks all languages. He can turn Nuer overnight. He can turn Denka anytime he wants. But here is the question. Paul, how can you, because there are some people within your community that say, oh, you speak to Nuer too much that actually I'm not even sure if you're actually fully a Denka. And you want to be a leader here. What are, based on the L that have been said, because I want you to finish the L's in that particular county that we're talking about. But Paul, how can you convince, as a leader, someone from Dr. Quack's community who has nothing to do with what people in your area are doing, but has a leader, how can you listen to them? And the point is that they don't like where you come from.
Thank you. Knowing your people is a great thing. It's a great asset. It's part of the solution. When a leader come and show up among the people, people know that that particular person is a problem solver. The example of wanting that, I'm not trying to avoid the question, but you are saying something based on where the person come from. I'm one of those people who say that I can fit anywhere in South Sudan, because the way I live my life knowing that I'm not an island. And that's why you see me speaking a little bit of over 7 languages. To learn a language is not easy. You need attention and you need a lot of things. Example of Wanding, and Wanding is one of the places that I deeply respect. I respect the whole South Sudan. And actually, we had a great man, uniquely built, a young man from Wanding, and his name is actually Wanding, who lost here in the United States of America. You probably know whom I'm talking about, Dr. Stein. Deman Waraga.
Mm-hmm.
He was with us in Ethiopia. He is that could kick a goal from one goal to another. Like he's a very, very unique human being. I was really touched, and I was, I asked, the time I came to the United States, he was one of the few people that I asked his whereabouts, and I was told that he's no longer with us. As a leader, is to protect people. people, not just the people in your community, but the people also in the other community. If one take the role of the commission, but I'm not trying to avoid the question, of how do you convince somebody from other tribe? Your life is speak by itself. You know, we have that joke was Dr. Tad, joke was Dr. You know, uh, anyway, I'm not going to talk about Wang Jack, Dr. Quek. So anyway, in all, when you know people, like, as a leader, you are a media person. Dr. Taj is somebody that is with that strategic planning. He can make things happen. He can put project together. He can convince another person so that a particular project will be supported. As a leader, you know those people, and strategic thinking and that talking about. Someone like Dr. Chol Kwek. Dr. Chol Kwek is somebody that have studied leadership, and not only leadership, he studied psychology. And he has helped people in various areas. And actually, at some point, I claim him as my mental health doctor. And when I'm traveling, as a psychologist, I've heard it earlier that I've been mentioned as a captain, a lieutenant, and all those leadership positions. When you are in charge of many things, including money, weapon, and all of that. So you have to be psychological. So others have done a homework and cross position. When you are in a public position, there is also another background that you have to take, where you don't have to, make a right decision that could hurt somebody. When it comes to somebody that his daughter or son have been abducted, that is a serious issue. What I can do as a commissioner, if I put myself in the shoe of a commissioner, as soon as I get sworn in as a commissioner, what I will do is have a network of other commissioners, know what my powers are, whom I could count on if somebody have entered and take a child by force. I will call that commissioner and say, look, my child is abducted, area suspect that have to have abducted. I need your help on the other side. And at the same time, if I have the tool, the necessary tool that I need to do my job, it will be that time that I'll make sure that that helicopter that we have, or that is in another country, and that I'm building up money and finance resources so that I could have this helicopter tour, I will make sure that my police get to work and are able to detect and find out where that child is. We cannot allow our people to take matters in their hand, because any aggression, it doesn't matter what, any fighting is always a lose-lose situation, because people end up losing on both sides of the aisle. And as a leader,
what
you
do
don't
you
want to
do
see that.
when the child abductors is actually more powerful than your police?
Thank you. Somebody said one time that even if it's taken away from me and I'm left with the art of communication, I'll gain everything that I will communicate as a leader to make sure that those that are being utilized against innocent people can be redirected. Innocent people can be redirected. And at the same time, if you see the force coming, that's when you on the government to ask for.
All right, thank you. I want to go to Dr. Quek. I want to go to Dr. Quek because our time is running up. Thank you, Paul. Dr. Quek, I want also you to give me your perspective. Let's take the whole question here back to our country since we started already. As someone that understands the psychology of people from different backgrounds, do we really need to blame our leaders in your perspectives, or do you think they actually need help?
Everybody need help. Ambassador Young.
I know I do. That's I know
For that
sure.
matter. Plato, Plato once said, head of state or state should be led by philosophers who are also lovers of wisdom, which is where the word comes, which is wisdom. Then he continues saying, leadership is the duty of a philosopher king. Okay, a duty of philosopher king who acquired the technique and skill for the art of ruling. So he's saying, if you want to get to power, you have to acquire this knowledge, right? Knowing human behavior. So taking this back there are so many leaders around the world, including our country. Leaders, we're talking about not only the head of the state, leaders are leading their own group of people. Some of them do not have the capacity it takes to provide. Why do a leader wants to be a leader, want to be in leadership? Is to provide services. Summing up everything here, when you get to power, so ambitious to provide services, okay? And then when you get there, you find it out that it is quite difficult to provide those leadership, those services you want people to provide when you get to power, right? Why?
Yes.
A lot involved, including corruption. Resources that you want to bring to people will very much become limited because some people you're leading are actually talking some of the finances that is needed to bring peace among neighbors, to bring security, to protect people, to bring food. Then now you become very much limited in resources to provide people. So nowadays, Ambassador Young, if we look around the world, there are so many uprisings. Why those uprisings? Those uprisings because and people were hungry, empty stomach. The very farmer that landed this person on this throne, so to speak, are no longer provided. Then people rebel. They don't want this leader anymore. They want someone that will provide A, B, C, D, E to them. Okay? So taking Plato's perspective, we do believe, I'm talking about those who study human behavior or study mind of other people. We do. If you do not know how your people behave, you will not really know what to provide to them. They assume that what you do is beneficial. You see your shortcomings. But if you do know that people say something for a reason, then you adjust. Everybody make mistakes. You become to power, all of a sudden, you become very much surrounded by people who cannot really say no to what you say, who glorify because they're benefiting from your leadership. And now you're a center of attention, I say again, then you lose sight of the people who brought you to power, okay? Now it becomes very easy to even go to a crowd of people telling them that plan for tomorrow because you're scared. They can, okay? So what happened? First, you know you failed. Now you will move away from that the very characters that brought you in to dictatorship. In a way, is people will see it as that, but you don't see it as that. So you use pause for anyone that says something. That is mentally insane, right? We do believe if you are a philosopher who study human behavior, you will actually know what people have in their mind. But because you do not have what it takes for you to lead and provide, that's why you messed up. Instead of correcting it, you maximize, those shortcomings you have. Because your duty is to make sure you stay in power, to make attention stay with. So when you talk about mental illness, do leaders have people who get to power with free mind, with everything? Do they get mental challenges, leadership? Yes. Because what happened to you? They're a human being. Stress is over here. Okay? Anxiety for being kicked out anytime is over here. Being kicked out anytime, not by the people, by the people.
But if you
Right?
feel that you are going to be kicked out, then that means you are not doing your job. Well, anyway, our time is running out. I want those 3 L's.
Correct.
Dr. Fight, I want those 3 L's to be applied in one thing before we get to go, so that the rest of the experts can give us their own recap of what we have discussed. But apply those 3 L's in one of those countries.
You can apply them in Ulang, you can apply them in Nakoba, you can apply them in any city, town, or in the government of South Sudan. I think one thing people need to know, Ambassador Young, if I wanted to give you medication now, if I say I see you are sick, I'm going to write you a prescription. Will you take my medication?
Oh, yeah, knowing that you are not a medical doctor, I would think twice.
This is something that people need to understand. Leadership is a skill, like another skill, that people can learn. That anyone who is interested to learn it should learn it. It is a skill that has also formula, like math. I'm a mathematician myself. I told people at one point, one of my colleagues, when I was an undergrad, he told me I'm not good. I'm not good in math. I can't do math. I'm not good in math. I told him, if you are not good in math, you can't do math. You might not be good in anything else too, because there's nothing in life that you can do now that does not touch math. It is just like leadership. There's nothing in our life that you can do and be succeeded in it without having the leadership skill, from the family to anything else. So the only challenge is, how do you develop your leadership if nothing can be successful without leadership? And I mentioned something earlier, I think it was yesterday on my timeline, that leadership and system are what make things happen. Any institution, any society, any community that does not develop leadership and that does not establish a sound system, that institution, that society, that community cannot go anywhere. So take the L1s. Let's do the L1 in Bhutan, for example. What are the people in the Bhutan wanting to see happen? Or in Akuba? What do they want to see happen? People
they want Espelamaiwo to leave. How can you?
If that's what they say, they might have a reason. If that's what they say, they might have a reason. If anything that people say, they like or they do not like, because anything good has come with something bad. Anything bad come with something good as well. So anything people say, they have a reason. As long as you can clarify that reason, as long as you can listen to them, you might not agree with what they say, but listen to it. One thing that most leaders do not do right.
Let me play a double advocate here.
Right.
They would say that our problem here is being caused by this IO who just came. And the IO member would say that, oh, this is a problem that's been caused by the SPLM IG because they have been kicking people out and here and there. Now, how do you bring these divergent views together and
You know,
make them work what they wanted to do?
I would just say people in Akoba, they were in Akoba before I go or IG or anything else. What is good for them is good for them regardless of any other institution that happened to be there. What they think they want is what is important because it's what will serve their life, is what they will create them hope, is what they will let them live with other people there. As long as you can listen to that, as long as that what they want is what is important for them. Because again, the leader who does not listen does not lead. Period. A leader who listens but does not put what he has heard, has learned into action, does not also provide result. And if you don't have result as a leader, you are not leading anything. Because what people see is what they hear. If you tell them you're going to do this and they cannot see it, they're not going to hear it. Because people do not hear with their ear, they hear with their eyes. It's what they see is exactly what they listen to. And when you say you are a leader and you have listened to their problem and you learn from their problem, you have to deliver. Now, if you don't deliver and they cannot see it, then they will never like you for that long, regardless of how you call yourself. Call yourself Jesus Christ. It's still not gonna. It's not gonna solve the problem. Call yourself anything. So what is important? It's not what you say you're going to do. It's what you do. And what you do come from what people tell you, what you listen from people, what you do together with people. But because if you force people to actually do what you want and not what they think can help them, they might probably be forced to do it, but they want to do it right. And you go back to the circle. That's why we have the circle we have now in South Sudan. Because we are reversing from what people want to what we want. As the leader, I'm not in that, Juba, but I'm one of the leaders. We want people to do what we want. It's not going to help until we tell people, no, let's get to what you guys want. Now we will have peace and we'll have development and then we'll have a country that we want.
And hopefully that will happen anytime soon. Now, this is come to this segment is coming to an end. I have Changkot Ganyatungong coming to join me live, and also we have one of the South Sudanese author, is one of the female who has wrote a book by the titles how. Well, actually, let me get it here. Excuse me. This is the. I can't see myself here. What did I do to the whole thing?
We're seeing you.
All right. This is the book, What's a Godly Privilege to Be Born a Man. She will be joining me after this segment. But before we get to that, I want our experts, all of you doctors, to wrap up your recap what we have just discussed. And I want to start with Paul. Paul, if you can give us a minute of your time and say the last thing so that we can come to the end of this and then goes to Dr. Quack and Dr. Faj. Paul, go ahead.
Thank you, Miyong. And when you mentioned the title of the book, is that our sister in Canada, Nyaziel?
Yes. She's Tabitha.
Thank you.
Tabitha Biel Loa. Tabitha Biel Loa. She's actually going to Australia tomorrow in promotion of this book. I want to bring her in so that our viewers and fans will be able to follow her there. And I'm sure a number of you have bought this book. It's very telling. It's parts and parcel of what we are talking about. When she had this title, Godly Privilege to Be Born a Man, you might feel like, oh yeah, that's good. But
Yes.
no, when you read it, it's completely opposite, which is very, very interesting and very nice. Dr. Paja has read it already. Go ahead and give us your recap.
And Dr. Taj also have a book, so it would be a good time also to bring those books at the honor of bringing all the authors from South Sudan. When I had a meeting in Washington, D.C., Dr. Taj was there, his book was brought, and several other books. So, yes, I want to encourage all of us, to those who haven't purchased the book, to encourage our sister, and she's not the only author as well. It was launched in Juba by one of our young ladies, and it's like my mom's wildest dream. You know, some of the books that are being written by our beautiful, we're proud of them. Take a minute and go there to convince people across the tribal divide and all of that. Listening to people is a good thing. Tell me, Allah, the demand on the bangij rat. Bangij rat says something important. And he actually put it in a book, in a song. And he went ahead with some of the leaders. He mentioned Taban, he mentioned, and all of that. So it is time for us to realize that go bana calm down bana lot. South Sudanese but bana calm down lot. For people who still are divided by the tribal thing. And with respect of time, I want to conclude with a quotation that was found on the tomb of 12th century. It says, "When I was a child, I thought I could change the whole world. And when I was a youth, I thought I could change my country. And when I got married, I thought I could change my family. And now I'm dying and I have realized that I can first change myself. And perhaps by changing myself, I can change my family. And by changing my family, I can change my country. And perhaps by changing, I can finally change the whole world." So change that as individuals, as made by various leaders here. So, and once that change, it affects ours, and it go. And actually, Dr. Sataj mentioned something important. There are people who by name Echo that don't take leadership position, like Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa is a mother. She don't have any other title besides being a mother. And she did what she does best consistently. Mother Teresa, we have people like Good Samaritan. Good Samaritan doesn't have any other thing than being called Good Nuer, or Good Monjang, or Good Dinka. He used to do something that Good Samaritan does. There are people like who affect others. My kids and Dr. Tite kids, they're like, no, we want to see our cousins and all of that. And the same thing to Dr. Chol Kwek children. They miss uncle. And I cannot leave California without going to Dr. Kwek house, and actually, it's my home away from home. That's why I was talking about earlier. That's what we used to eat with Dr. and really good. And also, Dr. Thai take a community. When people eat together, they plan together and do things together. So, and and at the same time, people could bless you. Like when I was leaving, going to South Sudan, Uganda, and Kenya, he said the important blessing before. He blessed me and he said, that blessing that was given to me by Reverend Gadlual. So,
Who is Gadlual? Say his full name. There are some people who don't know Gadlual.
Peter
Rajwal.
Dr. Chol Kwek.
Peter Rajwal.
Peter Rajwal.
Yes.
And I'm making the can lady here, Garmuno. I was take one more blessed. and that's a blessing. And go rame ya put it go away. What do you say? Everything part of problems. So ganya gum again ganya ram by the palguazi and yamandan biala right. Boko to kel ye. So some of you are like, and actually you accuse me of speaking Nuer more than any other language. Mwaka taposa chala mwaka Nuer chala Paul got way to them. Many women say they got Paul got way to them. Mwaka luto Paul or Yami or Chuko. Ka chola ba wa Paul nyogdiel. And the list continue. Kajang ba wa Paul mator manyok. Wa jenta darane let's do it again. Kala de Ramakel me chole chawagan baroda chapu gar gwara garaye. Won we chola garaye ngay jeng yo take a tin take a nas dor the man. Kacha wetin. Nakaje bol baka da kwai one baka da kicharo la baroda mo chiane no a presidential Paul got to the and my check. Jen Cheramela Angam Bell Dog Bandagin tea, Dija Bolangala Malpoa to jump. Well, Jen, you are living.
Now you change the protocol now. Got to that.
Take a major that I was a yet look. Lady, I yet look. Bubben cover your look. A Jimmy de Laria. Laria Boko to Kelly, Kababen, Kawa, Michinan, and the Shawa. Wama Lat, Shawador Jabba, Shoulder, Shawarol Jani, Kabalaben. Take a amateur to you, Paul. Come, we don't joke is a Christian Equatoria. And Mumakinawa. Kajuba was the one that then Gary. I killed my yard didn't put a cane galia. I thought Sudan that can a jail gal you. I will a bell. And then I was just for that quote. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paul. It's nice to hear from you. We will bring you another day so that you will have enough time to talk to the people. But people wanted to know, are you running as a president in South Sudan or in the United States? Short answer.
For South Sudan, it's actually South Sudan presidential. But the whole thing doesn't take it all. But yes, I have been to Australia before and I will come again. And Nyadiel, take my message to our people in Australia that I will be there as soon as it is humanly possible. And also, we are doing registration online, and that registration have to be diverse. So you have to have a Google account.
All right, Paul,
to
don't
be
go
able to
anywhere.
log
Just
into-
wait. We will bring you in. We will bring you in our next segment if you don't have, if you have time. Let me go to Dr. Thaj. Paul, don't go anywhere. Dr. Quack. Dr. Quack, give us the recap in 30 seconds. Paul has cheated us for more than the 5 minutes he's supposed to have. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanna, yeah, I just wanna commend my panel members, Dr. Said, Reverend Cap, and the host, Ambassador Myongkwan, for sharing this wonderful with me, or sharing it with you. So what I want to leave with you, if you're a leader out there, in your own capacity, you may not be a head of a state. You want to pay attention when you get to power. Make sure you act on your promises. Because why people turn against you, why people make rallies there saying is because you fail to provide what you promised them to provide. So also to protect your good health and good mental health, you have to pay attention to work pressure. You got to take care of yourself. We call that self-regulation, meaning get some powers to other people around you. Yourself, make sure you have some, leisure time out, because other people will be doing what you would stay in one place to do for the entire day. You do all the time from up, sunrise and sunset. Delegate powers. Okay, so you will have time for yourself. Also, if you want to get the power, if you want me to vote for you, I must first know that you have what it takes for you to be a leader. People go to power just to get there and learn how to. I thought I mentioned, you must be a good listener. Okay, good listener meaning you pay attention, you listen attentively, paying attention, right, and learning from it. Okay, there's one of that. There's another people, and other people follow you. You walk. There's another way around. Bring resources. Show people how a country can be. If you do that, you will be a favorite leader. Even if you are out of power tomorrow, people will. Without further ado, work pressure brings mental illness or mental health issues. Overwhelm would give you immense stress, anxious for not providing what you promised to provide to people, depression for having a prolonged stress. You will end up depressed. Then it will compromise your good mental health. You might even end up having a physical manifestation of health. So that's what we do. We advise people all the time that, yes, you may do whatever you're doing, pay attention to your good health, good mental health. Without further ado, thank you. And I look forward to another one when time comes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we really appreciate your time for coming, Dr. Quack. We will always be calling you when times allows, because we need your help when it comes to the thinking of people, because that's what we specialize on. Dr. Thatch, if you can also give us your recap and what our people want to go home, go sleep with tonight.
Yes, Mother Young, thank you again, and thank you for presidential candidate, Mr. Paul.
Dr. Thay,
Yes.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the work that you have done. There are quite a few refugees that have come through the help of Dr. Thay, and I have met of them. So I want to acknowledge that, and it's not just only South Sudanese.
Thank you. Thank you.
All over the world. So thank you, Dr. Thay, for the done with your organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I also want to thank Dr. Quex, and hopefully we'll chair the forum again the next time. I will leave the audience with two things. When we were talking about leadership and leadership challenges and what it would mean for anyone to develop leadership, there is a myth. Some people think that leaders that we're talking about it are the political leader or the community leaders or the organizational leader. No, it is everyone. Everyone is a leader. If you are a mother, you are a leader. If you are a father, you are a leader. If you have an older brother or sister, you are also a leader. You must develop your leadership skill. You must develop your leadership skill for you to sustain the relationship with people that you have, the people that are with you. Because leadership is developed from within and developed from the home. You have to lead yourself first before you lead others. And you have to lead your community first, your family first, before you lead your community, and then to the country. Now, there are things that people want in leader. The thing that people want, like I said earlier, the 3L, please learn them. Listen to people, your community, your family, anybody else that talk to you, pay attention to what they are saying, what they want to see happen. Listen to it, then learn from it, and then now you can lead from it, and you will lead together with them. The other thing you could also do as an individual is any person, who starts for anything has to create result. You have to develop result. If you do not develop result and people cannot see it, people will not hear what you tell them. And you don't develop your result in 6 months, then you will lose of your percentage. If you got 30 people, half of the 30 people will create doubt in you. If you have 20 people, half of the 20 people will create doubt of you. If you do not deliver in 30 days, and I mean in 6 months, half of the year. So for you, anyone can do this. But you can do things with people. You can do things with people. In order for you to work with people, you have to develop your character. And the leadership is based on the character. There are 10 characteristics that I would love to share with you. I will read for you. It's up to you to take them, and you can also leave them if you don't. If you have a pen, listen to them. Number one is integrity. You have to be trusted. People have to trust you. They have to trust you that you can care for them, you can help them, you can deliver. You have to be a positive-minded person. Positivity. You always have to. Don't always be seen mad, anger. When people see somebody smiling, they thought that it's not showing strongness. No, you are now connecting. People are connected with the people with a happy face, but also talking on a positive thing. Because the negative person, people run away from them. Be a positive-minded person. Develop that skill. Develop to be passionate. Be passionate with what you do. Be passionate of what you are for. This is very important. And also develop your empathy. You have to care of my pain must be your pain. If you hurt, I'm hurt, and you are happy because I'm hurt. Even if I'm not seeing you, the guilt is in you. You have to hurt. If our people are suffering, it has to be our suffer. If our people are crying, we also have to cry with them. We can never be happy when our people are suffering. If you do that, you are not a leader. You have to be loyal too. Loyalty is important. You have to be loyal in what you do. Accountability is another thing. You have to be accountable. And vision is another thing. You also have to be confident. And of course, if you work with people, you must delegate tasks to people. And finally, you have to have a sense of humor. Those are 10. You take them or you leave them. But if you develop this and they're becoming a part of you, you can be the kind of a leader that can deliver. And when you becoming a delivered leader, you're not just sitting on a chair. You're not just having a title. You are really the one that people promise, the one people hope to see. And you are really going to be the example that people will follow. With that, I wanted to thank you, Ambassador Myong, and I'm looking forward to another discussion with this wonderful gentleman next time in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thatch. It has been my pleasure to host you and host the rest of our experts. This is South Sudan Today. It has been always live every Wednesday at 9. But we have a news here. It's starting next week, and probably next week, we will start this show at 7 p.m. I would like to say that I have been allowed to get to one of the studios, and the only times I can do it is 7 to 8:30, because that's the time that I was given. So I will actually be in the real at least in a real perfect, not in my basement, but in a real somehow semi studio that I will be able to have the mics and the light and all that. So that's an achievement. I want to tell our viewers that we are moving and moving up forward. Thank you, Dr. Thach, for always being positive, giving smiles even at adversities are getting harder and harder. So I give this little victory to you because always you check on me, hey, Myung, what are you doing? Where are you at now? And all these things. So now that gave me a little courage to keep going. I will call you off the off the live, and we'll discuss more on that. But again, Dr. Quack, thank you so much for your time. Next week, I want to include part of what you said on your podcast because I think our viewers need it too as well. For Paul, wait on. I want to say goodbye to our experts, and then next week, same time, right here. Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, as we wait for sister, yes, as we wait for sister Tapitha Nyadiel to come in, I'm sure she's actually here with us, but she hasn't come in yet. Nyadiel is one of the authors at South Sudanese women who is still even going to university, and she wrote a great book, just like our sister Nyajok, who wrote books as well. And that book is a challenge to we men. I don't know if you wrote that. I mean, if you read that book, but I have read and I have seen myself here. I have a lot of disagreement and a lot of agreement. She has changed my mind in a lot of thinking based on how she explained things that are happening. So once these books came out, godly privilege to be born a man. It's talking about how we are so privileged as men, and we seem to have the authority in our society in South Sudan. So, and this is something that reflects us here as well in United States, Paul. But you as a pastor, as an activist, as an educator, you might also have some perspective on that. She's going to Australia, but as we wait for her, you were trying to say some things to people that you want them to listen to you. Go ahead.
Thank you. People like Tabitha Nyadiel and Nyajok and many of our authors, they inspire me when they come up with different perspective of seeing things. Yes, the way she view it, she has a point, and I have deep respect for her. Things that I was know is that in South Sudan, there are requirements for the political party to be registered, and South Sudan Republican Party is doing that process of registration. Is required to have 4,000 people, 500 in every state, and we have 10 state and 3 administrative areas. So I'm asking all my fellow South Sudanese, there's no party that is mainly for tribe. And as a giveaway, South Sudan Republican Party have agreed that the vice president will be a female. So we have some female candidates whom will be, who will be vice president. And we are yet to summarize that list. And also, if we have the list summarized, we will not be able to announce it at this time for a reason. That is to all the women. During my term as a president, the vice president will be a female. So pass the message to all the ladies. And of course, there are young people who political party. There are many generations that don't have political party. Welcome to South Sudan Republican Party. We are non-violent, and we will help you to learn the ropes. And also, there are young people that have learned, and there are things that they could advise us. I'm open to listen to you, put those L into work. So I've been to Clubhouse,
All
I've
right.
been to
Well,
different
thank you so
medium.
very much.
So
Thank you very much, Paul, for the opportunity. I want you to stay in as I bring in our author of this book, Tapitha Bielwak, who is actually here with us. She is traveling to Australia uh, tomorrow, and I want to bring her in and tell us what she has in the book, because we have viewers also in Australia who can listen to what she will be as she as she get to Australia and talk to them. I also want to invite our viewers to listen to her. She's a leader who can convince of what she wants you for the best of our country. She wrote a very great book that has a lot of things that if we follow that can help us. It is something, it's things that we have already in our mind, in our midst, but she put them in a book, and this is very great. I want to invite uh, Nyadil. Welcome to the show.
Hello, guys.
How
Can
are
you
you
guys
doing?
hear me?
hey, Tavisa Male.
Hey, hi. How are
Yes.
you? Almudangalam. Where did you? Good to see
Good to
you.
see you. Jenna,
That's good.
me we work in Australia.
You know.
Me work in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Me work in Melbourne. Be what you can as a Jack Deng Chenko. A jamo jik kata me ba manya take Melbourne. Ramakel Magor be jekeji. She will also do a great job. A
Wow.
check wawu. About a Jene Curb Unity School as a Jene Curb, and not only that, he was the inspector, and also Jene Minister of Education. God can take a Kamelbon, take a Tanal Tebe Largi of Records, Kitchen Jacob would take a lot of mud, ne con one ka winnie. Mani Jagal take a Yamatot Magur, did it Jacka Naga Chude. A Gana Nya Gadgun Mai. Chala Bain Mal. And Chudumo, a Chudmo Bain is a beautiful thing. So, gentlemen, de lar, uh, take an 81 T which you want to meet and also be able to market your book as well. And of course, Chankwat, Ramata Lord Nathan, Ganya Tungungung. He's always on Thursday, always live, doing so job. So our brothers and sisters in Australia and my fellow Republican members, please welcome Tabisa Nyadil. You know, that book, order your copy, or if you want her to sign that copy, just make it happen. So Nyadil, thank you, and it's good to see you. You were in Kenya not too long ago, came back to Canada, and finding time to visit our people. And if it is facilitated, we have our young people whom are in jail. I also want to recommend that the portion to be given to our people in jail, because there's always budget for jail, for the library. It will inspire our children in jail through the library. And if they want to buy soft copy, that would be something that could be utilized as well. So I'm not going to talk much, but yield the rest of the time to you and our great media young tour Kwon, the ambassador. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Paul, for that impromptu speech that you have given on behalf of our sister Tapitha Nyadiel Biao. Tapitha, I can't explain enough of what is this book about, but you have a chance now to tell us what is it that's so important that our people want to know. I understand, you know, our differences when it's come to your book and where we really meet together. But give us a highlight. There's people who have not seen it, who have not heard about it. But what is it that they need to know, seeing you now live? Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Kenyam de Laratas Loy, Kenindu Paul. I know she called right a few times, and I've never seen you on live like this. So this is very interesting. Thank you, Riatin Chilat. Thank you so much. They are the best because, again, when we come up with things like this, when we, the Sudanese, your daughters, your sisters, and so on, became, authors, because what you're doing in the next while, mogurum balat kuwi muwo bene balagwade, Canadian guri balalat way Canadian matam. So really, what you're doing, encouraging us and really goes a long way. Again, we are just messengers in ways, and we're the voice of the voiceless community. Then, so basically, you adding that to what has already been accomplished. That is so powerful. So thank you so much, and I'll try to meet whoever is available. At the same time, they go to you go ahead and let them know that your deal is coming and the book is available. It will be available, and everybody who want to have a copy of that book will have a chance to get it. So thank you so much. And my friends, thank you so much. I know you and I have our differences, of course, and we know too where we kind of meet headway because, again, I really love and appreciate the fact that when we talk about what we're talking about here, it kind of brings different perspective. This is the whole point. If we only have one way of seeing it, and then we're seeing it wrong. If we only see it in kind of like in different ways, and we're not meeting halfway, then we're also seeing it wrong. So for all our viewers, what a godly privilege to be born a man is a novel actually that tells the story of Sudanese women in particular, about the culture that kind of from whenever that was kind of invented, whatever the words that might be, kind of dismiss the parts that could include us as women. And so because of the way it's instructed, we have been paying the biggest price, and we have been the victims of sexual violence. We've been victims of forced marriage, child marriage, and so on, just to name a few. So this is what this book is all about the Sudanese women that are suffering through what we now call and practice is our culture. Our culture, as I always say, is a beautiful culture. However, with everything that is a flaws in it, we are the ones paying the price. And we would like you guys to have a look at what it is that we've been practicing so far. And really, if you will, have a discussion, have a willingness to be open and hear, from our perspective, what has really been going on, because we really have been suffering. All of that, the things that I've just mentioned, and so much more in this book. And also, the things that other authors have mentioned in their works as well. We are suffering, just to say the least. We are suffering, and we want us to be able to talk about this without just the need to shut us down and say it doesn't matter, this is our culture. Yes, it is our culture. We love it. If I can tell you how much we love it, just me talking about it should just tell you how much I love this culture. But again, with everything that is opposing me as a woman, I need to be able to tell you. I don't need to be afraid at this point anymore, because it doesn't seem that anyone has thought of how much a suffer that we are facing as women. So this is what this book stands for, just to have a conversation about exactly the thing that Paul knows, exactly the things that you may know in our culture. We really need to just dive down and be open and talk about them. Yes.
Wow. Paul, I need your help here. Can you, in 30 seconds, explain or summarize this book in Denka?
Yen wo chaka mo pung kene pung chi got ku ke jam mana de ke yen ye ke pia de dibi ke ye mo ku kene jam ne bia de dia ye kan gung dia ye ne ke lo bung kene we ko to te aya nya baga copies baga watch share the link and of course supporters out there, I want you to buy some copy. And actually, I want one copy signed to go to Benmal. So I want you to order the copies, and then if nobody buy it, then let me know the visa and go kind of cop. But I want some of you to buy book for people like Benmal. Benmal is very young girl. Is a young girl, but I want her to hold that book. I also want some of you who have connection with the Australian government to buy those books. It will encourage our young women, our young men in Australia, and not only Australia and also elsewhere. So that's the book. Jen book anamo. Jen ba te gram kel me de banjo ta mas a che kanya nuara te ka Melbourne. A che wura mi chol de malwal mabur. So when we work Australia, make sure you meet her. They don't want to win him and Ramadan on a social media. I'm sure take Sydney, Australia. We any Australia jam within
Melbourne. We'll be in Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Yeah, I think I said
Because
it right.
money nya William Nyon.
Yes.
Money nya do yeah, and also that Gordon Kang was there too, so he's inspired our people. And also many Nyamandan Ninya Lul you'll tell. If you have time, and you'll tell.
Not really. Oh, yes, the singer. Yes, yes.
Pananya, yeah,
Panan Nyapal, yes.
Yeah, Pananya
Yes.
That's my cousin. I don't know where you get that tell from.
Take a thing one day, take my
Okay, that's good. Now getting back to the book. Can you hear me now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Getting back to the book, Tapitha, one of the challenging things that I would say is a gray area, even though the book is gray, is saying that our culture, we love our culture, and the 95% of the book is about correcting the culture. What you say you love the culture. What part is it that you love? Tell me, only one, not many of them.
Right. The parts that need to be corrected, and I don't think I'm going to be alone. You also will be part of this corrections. Is the way you, as men, where the culture positions you in that manner, the way you look at us. The way you look at us determines how you're going to treat us eventually. But there are actually reasons for the way you look at us, because if there aren't authorities, there aren't things that dictates how you're going to behave, and then the way you're going to look at us as well will be different. So how you see us is what needed to be looked at, but how you see us is so huge that when we begin to talk about it, we couldn't even think of other things but to just dive in, because it's very, very huge.
Now, when you said how we look at you, I assume that how we also sometimes understand you. But one thing that I know that I agree with you is a child marriage. I don't even need to agree with you because it is it just shouldn't happen in the first place with child marriage. Yes, down the road where we come from, they do have a point in a way that we do not have education,
They
and
do have a point.
they have a point because they say that children that have no education. Because when we talk about child, we're talking about 17 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old. These are children, right? But
But
by the
that's
time,
not where we begin when it comes to marriage. When it
yeah,
comes to child marriage, that's
but
even those are
back,
older.
back
Yes.
home, back home, there's no education by then. I'm not talking about now. By then, there's no education, and you know how cultures, our cultures, see women as a product of building the nation. When I say building the nation, is that you have five girls. You are the richest person in that area. Why? Because men will come to marry from you. Where the mistakes come is when they're pretty young. That's the problem. But what I'm saying that I'm agreeing with you is that instead of our girls to get married at that younger age, they need to go to school. That's one. Two, not only that they get married, they also need to get married to people that are their age. So these are the things that we need to change, and this is one thing that I agree with you. The only gray area here that you need to explain to us is that it's here in America or in the Western world. Uh, there's no scapegoating here. We know our mistakes. I
Hopefully.
don't even want to waste time on that.
Okay.
But here is the point, right?
Yes.
As much as we accept that our culture has flaws, has mistakes that we can change, but you, the female from our culture, have gotten to the point that you even go beyond what we expected. Some of the female are saying, and I will say quote unquote some, they are saying that, well, men and women are the same, and we agree they are the same. But when it's come to family setting, right? Even the Bible said, man of the house, not man of the house because they have muscle to punch anybody and then become the man. No, man of the house. And I like what you explained last time, but I want you to say it again, even though I know what you said. Man of the house is a man, right? But why is it hard now in this country where there are some men, I wish I'm one of them, but I'm not. There are some men that are very great, that are doing their job, that have recognized women, that have recognized the right of everybody. But yet at the same time, women are seeing them as aggressors, as people that should be that should not be respected, just because of the fall of other men. Go ahead.
Exactly. I think there are great areas, and those are the things that when we have a conversation like this, they do come up really, because those are the things that then when we talk about what's wrong, what really is then wrong. If there isn't something that is good, and then what is wrong is really not wrong because we don't know what's good to begin with. So when it comes to um, the change in the culture, the structure that is changing in our culture, and I don't know, you might have to also clarify this when we talk about what's going on in terms of
While you answer that,
women.
I want you to read this because Changwa Ganya Chunkang also is in Australia. You'll be able to meet him. And he's supposed to be with us now live online, but he says something very interesting. As you answer the question, read that as well. Sometimes we got to be realistic with level of criticism or critical issues. We seem to be swaying our focus into the Western world of worst behavior. Go ahead.
So when it comes to how the culture itself, the way we look at it, has shifted, yes, that is a gray area that need to be discussed when it comes to what need to be changed, what need to be challenged, what's wrong and what is not. So what need to be clarified first and foremost is, are we talking about the West, the women that are in the West, and how our men, have looked at how we've taken our culture and how we want it to be exactly as you are disagreeing with us. What kind of women are you talking about? The Sudanese women in general, and that means both the ones in, back home and also in diaspora, or are you talking specifically about the women that I'm part of, personally? What women? Which one
Let,
are we
let,
talking about?
let me answer you. I never got married in South Sudan. I wish I would, so that I know what happened. I only got
Mhm.
married here, and I only know what is happening here. And that also get me off the hook that I never been also a man in South Sudan to be able to apply it. I wish I'm there because it's great. But here in this country, I'm talking about the women who speak English as much as you do. They understand at the same time. And I like what Simon said here, also chunk of the Nyatungo. The worst behavior of the West, because anywhere there are some bad things, in the West we call it behavior, but in our culture we call it culture, right? The worst behavior, and you didn't tell me what, I can name one, right? And one of them
Sure.
is how two couples, the couples in a family, cannot solve their problems. I'm not talking about abusive case. No, I'm talking about differences. When two people come together, they must have differences. One of the worst things in the West is that two people who got married cannot even solve their own differences. Just because they're in the West, you go your way, it's over. I'm going my way, you go your way. I mean, just to say the least, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ladies here in this country where we are. Go ahead.
I love the fact that you identified, which area that we're talking about, because if you're talking about South Sudan, and then that will be a different situation altogether. But I think the more I answer this question, I think the more it takes us away from the book itself, because this book doesn't really touch even anything about, how we live in the West and what is working and what is not working in the West. But of course, if there are challenges that are happening that probably been part of our lives for the longest time, I think there also a connection. There's a correlations where if they were wrong then, and then perhaps they are, bringing us troubles here in the West. But I think if I had to go back exactly about what you guys were asking, or you particular were asking, when it comes to how we, in your own view as our men, how you think that we have kind of shifted and try to change the way things used to be for us. One of the things is that we have to look at where we are. Of course, the structures of our culture is it's very detailed, and if we're to go and kind of practice each and everything, and then we also have to ask ourselves, where are we? We're no longer in South Sudan, and because we're no longer in that place, there are also things that without even the need to discuss them, they just change automatically. And one of the example I think that we those who are watching, and also three of us here can agree with, is the way we work back home. How do we work? The man goes to work, and we the women stay home and make the food happen. Or in a lot of ways too, women also go to work and come home and do the work that has to be done at home. But what really has changed in the West, and it really doesn't matter where we are, it has changed that if we are to be in this manner, following the way things are working in that particular place, and then the way we see things also has to shift, because again, as it's just going to bring problems altogether. If we're saying that you're not going to work as a woman, and then soon enough we realize that there's no telaka, so there's really no nothing else other than the porbel at once, and then bring food, and then and so on. It's just like a cycle thing, and we have to do that continuously, and we all have to be part of it. So I think that itself changes the way our culture really works. When we talk about solving problem, which I think here is one of the concerns that you mentioned, um, how do we solve problems? And I think changing the place also has something to do with how we solve problems. Now, I could be wrong, and I would like to know that. But when it comes to how it's not working for us, we really have to first understand
What do
where
you
we
mean?
are.
What do you mean when you say changing the place?
So changing the place is something like we right now are in Nebraska. So you're no longer in Nasser. So that is a change in place. So that means the structure, the way we view, what used to be your role and what used to be my role have completely changed. So also it brings about, the change in how we look at problems and how we solve them. Now, if we're saying that when we are in Nasser, we have to solve things just as they used to be solved. And then we are kind of dismissing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that how do those people in that particular place that we moved to change how they look at things, or deal with issues. But I think one of the places that we kind of got stuck in is how we want things to used to be. So when you talk about our women don't want to solve issues like the way they used to be. I think I take that to mean that our women, your women, we the women are not looking at problems and solving problems like our mother used to be. And I think that across the board is one of the concerns for a lot of our Sudanese men. But the problems is the place. But if we can even pinpoint on what exactly, because problems as they are, they're very distinctive. They are very different. Every family will have its own problem, and that problems requires its own way of solving it. We can say that what our problems back home used to be one problems and required one way of looking at it. Because if we do that, all of a sudden that has changed because we shift the place. We're no longer in South Sudan. So each and every family has its own problems that also requires the different ways of looking at it. Now, our culture has it this way. You are a man, and I know that you and I have talked about this, that the structure, that, the guidelines, the way it was given to us, man is the head of the family. But I also have to mention that being a head doesn't really mean you being someone that gives authority without you being also in the picture of that leadership. What does that leadership means to you as a person who practice both the culture and also claim that leadership or leadership position? So the problem is we have to exactly know what it is that is our position, what it is that is requiring us to do. Because if we just claim that we are the head, and then what is the head does? What would you do as a head? Are you to sit down and be served? I think that's one of the problems because that's how we defined it, that I am the head and therefore I am to just give orders and have people serving me. I think it really doesn't matter whether that is in the West or even in our home place where we came from. It's a problematic because again, if we define being head as someone to be served, and then automatically we dismiss the whole point of being a head of the family. So problems is not us, but the problem is not you too. It's just the culture itself that we kind of just build for ourselves, thinking that it's really going to work. Because to begin with, that culture is to serve men, quite honestly. And of course, it's debatable. We can talk about it and how it's serving men and what that looks like for us. But again, that's the problem itself. We always go back to how it should be us. I cannot hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I
Okay.
muted myself. Sorry, I muted myself. But I was
Okay.
asking you, it served men in what way? But before you answer that question, Paul, I want you to come in here if you want to add anything. But here's the point, and I want Tapita also to make sure that when you answer both of them. When you were narrating what you were saying, I can hear where the problems start. I will speak now in the West. I have girls that will become women. And in our culture, there will be a time for them to become women, they will get married. And for them to get married, we have dowries that are given to the families. This is not only a culture, but this is the base of our life in our country. Now, here in this country, if we talk about changing culture, you know, there are some things that you need to change before you change some certain things. You're talking about two people. that are families. How they get to that family is different. In our country, a man go out to get married, pay dowries. Automatically, I mean, in reality, that is the reality, is the man that has the house, is the man that pay for the dowry. And I have to say that you are being bought. No, you're not bought, because it's part of exchanging people to come together. But in the West, right? In the West, let me start as a father who has a daughter. In South Sudan, you don't just have a daughter. Your whole family has owned that daughter. Even if I say that, okay, a man is coming to get married to my daughter, and all I need is 5 cows. No will say, excuse me, it's not going to work that way. Because why? There's certain ceiling for a man to get to take our daughter. So now in this country, to make this story short, Paul, before she answered, are we going to have our daughters getting married through dowries, or are we just going to have them run away from us so that they don't want to be seen as people that are being sold to the husband they love?
Uh, marriage is a freedom, and it's a responsibility that lay in the hand of the parent.
Oh, we have brother,
we
we have Ganya Tungong here. I didn't realize, and he was so quiet as usual. Let me bring him in, then we'll go ahead and answer.
when we come in to dictate,
Simon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. How are
so
you?
when we come in to dictate, it's not that easy, and also it is something that is ingrained in the culture. So we cannot, and culture is not static; it changes. And of course, culture is as family is a social, whereby social norms are practiced to satisfy the societal value. So paying down something in there, and will reflect, like it was mentioned earlier by Ganya Miran, Ganya Tungungung. Our culture, there are certain things that have been taken as a pride. There was a pastor that left here. He was invited to go to Australia, to participate in a marriage of one of the family members. And the husband went and pay, that like the dowry was like 90,000 plus other. This man was like, wow, 90,000 cows. He was amazing and surprised. It hasn't been the case. I have been in marriage where people pay 20,000, and some people pay 5,000, some less than that, and taking it to the next level. Of course, it's a great spot, is it? But all in all, I just leave it in the hand of the families, and sometimes it's like the husband showing his appreciation of the new person that he's brought to his family, and it shouldn't be taken as cut and paste. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I give it to Gadnya Tungong, because I want to introduce him, I have begin Koryam wanted to join us. I have sent in the links, and you can also come and join as well. Simon Toot, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ambassador Muyo.
And as filmed tonight is being squeezed out because I needed you. There's so many things that we needed to discuss, and when we finish here, we'll definitely head on. I will be late for him here, but no, there are things that we'll need to touch on. Now, tell us. You found us talking about the book, and the book is challenging our culture, especially we men. Nyadiela said correctly that it's a privilege to be born a man, and I know you've not been a man even for 1 second, is not a privilege sometimes, because we go through we go through a lot. So now, Simon, welcome to the show, and if you have some additions to what we are discussing.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Ambassador Myong, for availing time for all of us today. Yeah, there's no problem whether we will find enough time to discuss political issues or not, and it's okay. We can always find time. There are also social agendas like what we are talking about today that is also fundamental, and it should also be given attention. I have to say hello to our presidential candidate, Mr. Paul Mator Manyok. How are you?
Manoga tur waitedi Simon Toot.
Jini chale
I
gatu
need
da.
to show my brother.
All right. Now, nice to see you after a long time. My young tell you today that. All right. And I also have to say hello to our sister, Tapitha Biel. I haven't read the book, and I've seen it circulating on social media, and it's interesting. The first question that we always ought to ask is, how can a woman be writing something to do with the men on the title, and what is inside? So we were actually anticipating what should be inside. So it's good to have a bit of highlight of what is inside. But after I listened to her, and also, what a godly privilege to be born a man. Yeah, so for a woman to write such a book, sometime you ought to ask a question: what is included inside? But as far as I'm concerned, as a South Sudanese young man who grew up in Western world, I also tend to understand just a bit of what is in the book even before I've read it. It sounds like a cry from our young women and from our women that has gone through a lot to be where they are today. Although there might be contradicting or issues that will attract, counter responses and all that, we have to acknowledge the fact that a young lady has availed her time and herself to us to raise certain issues that are fundamental to her, and not only to her, to all our women. We have to read the book, and also after reading the book, I think it would be a high chance for all of us to have a genuine discussion on what needed to be done, because sometimes it is like activists. When you feel that you've been suppressed and you have no voice, it's just a matter of time before you rise up and say, "Hey, look, this is what hurting me." And I think this is where our sister come from. Not only her, a lot of women are also raising the same issues. So now, we as men, I think it is a humble chance for us to be honest in how we can discuss this, and also tell them where they might have gone wrong. So at the moment, I will not say where she has gone wrong because I haven't read the book. Once I receive the book and I see it, I'll be able to also analyze it and give it my attention. But according to what I heard from her, it seemed like, yes, we have come to a different world, we have come to a different environment, and the ground of change, the environment of change, and so are the activities that are being, conducted. And I think this is where she come from with this idea. The fact that we have come to Western world, there are things that will change eventually. But sometimes change is a gradual. It's not a quick fix. When you want a quick fix, you will never receive it. It will be always a gradual movement where people have to be educated. Things have to be discussed in a manner that is sustainable. when you come and say, I have a problem, you need to tell me what problem do you have? And do I have the capability to be able to listen to your problem and also be able to manifest myself into your problem and help you? If I am not in that position, I will not be able to help. But I think for most of us men, like you, Paul Mator, and Ambassador Myong, myself included, we came to Western world expecting that things will remain the same as we were back home. Unfortunately, it is the opposite. It is also encompassed upon us to listen to our women and see where we have probably, gone wrong and where we need to mend our mistakes.
Our viewers are telling me, Simon, they said that if you guys can turn into Nuer, because you all speak Nuer and Paul also speak Nuer, if that's something you want, we can turn into Nuer as well, no problem. Nuer is also one of the national language. Go ahead.
Well, I thought you guys are selling the book or advertising the book. So how are you guys going to only advertise it to Nuer?
I'm talking about when anybody wanted to turn it to Nuer, when you
Oh,
talk.
okay. Yeah, no, it's okay. It's important as well that our people need to understand what is in the book in their own dialect. But what I was trying to say is I was depicting from what our sister mentioned earlier, that they felt that they have been pinched. We have put them under the rug for quite a long time. And it is now time for them to speak out so that they can tell us what is haunting them, what is hurting them. So the challenge will come back to us, to you, Myong, and all of us that are in Western world. Once we listen to the book and once we listen to the women, we have to be honest in how we gear forward, because without being honest, there will always be what? There will be always, a contrary act. Another woman will come and disclose other things that maybe Tabitha hasn't disclosed yet. And then tomorrow, if we don't want to listen, another woman will also come up and disclose other furthermore. So I think in any society, over time there are changes. People change through time. When you deem the action that you have done 20 years ago unnecessary, you need to also change so that you don't make the next 20 years look like the last 20 years. And I think this is where the challenge from the book comes from. So to conclude, so that you guys can also continue with the discussion, I have mentioned earlier on my comment that sometimes I've been a community leader, I've been a youth leader, I've been, through African community, through South Sudanese community, and I found that we have a big problem, especially those who are in Western world, on how we deal with our women and our social problems. And I think we have failed to address them over the last 20, 30 years, because I believe in America, people started going to America back in 1990s, 91, 92. I remember my uncle left us in Arcoba in 1992. So, and he went to America in 1995. If you look at all these years, it seems like there are men among us that have learned nothing. And I think this is where now the challenge is coming back on us, because we have crossed borders, we have crossed oceans, but yet we still prove that we cannot change. My comment earlier came as I will not say it's a warning, it's just also an education message. That yes, we have to change, but we cannot change drastically to a situation where we don't even understand. And that's where the culture of the Western world I mentioned came in. Some among us, and our ladies and women included, they want us to change in 24 hours to a culture that we never know. Okay? And yet themselves, they are not even chained to the same very culture that they want us to chain to. They want us to behave like white men, but they are not white women. You know? So if I want to say, let us all change, then automatically we have to behave like white people. Whether you are a white black woman or a black man, we have to behave like white people. But it will never happen. It will never happen. What I will agree, although I haven't read the book, is that I need to hear the outcry of our women. And I feel that our women for sure have suffered for quite a long time. And it is a high chance for them to be heard. We have to give them podium to be heard, so that we have to respond in a manner that they will feel that our men and our sons are actually hearing our cry. Because if we refuse to listen to them, then they will continue to advocate. And through advocacy come other things, you know? When you continue to advocate, even if people don't want to listen, there will be a time in future that they will listen. So, Sister Tabitha, I would love to read your book, and I would love to comment further after the book, after I read the book. But for now, yes, I agree that there were areas where we have pinched you. There are areas that we have suppressed your rights. Not maybe, perhaps not in Western world, but back home. But we need to also understand that in any given society, even the white people within the society, if you date back like 50 years or 60, 70 years ago, you will find that they used to once behave like us. But through development, through progress, through continuous education, there were changes done. Today, if you look at in Western world, they concentrate much on domestic violence. Why? The question is, why do the white people continue to discuss more on domestic violence? It is because it has been ingrained in their culture, just like we had. Over the years, they used to be so violent among themselves, but perhaps it was severely toward the women because they were a bit weaker than the men. So that's why now the law are actually geared on the areas of changing the domestic violence and domestic behavior on how we live in our homes. Back in our villages, in our small villages and our small towns, we don't have a government that can educate us. We don't have all these lucrative organizations that can educate us, create awareness, and all this to change the fabric of our society. I think it will take a time. It will take you and I to go back home to educate our people on the importance of mutual understanding, mutual respect, and also, mutual planning, because you are important. If you are my wife, you are important. My goals and your goals are the same. You mentioned an important area earlier, that we came into Western world where we all work in the factories. Chemkos is not going to hunt in the bushes. Okay, but back home, Chemkos would go to the bush. I would not allow my wife to go and hunt for antelopes in the bushes. I will do it. So I expect once I come home, I will find that my wife already cooked. But in this Western world that we are today, that we are not hunting for antelopes in the bushes. So we go to the factories and we bring this paper money, and this is the same paper money my wife will make. If I make 1,000 a week, my wife will make 1,000. So this is where now Ambassador Mayong, our sister, came into conclusion that there has to be shared equity when it comes to the duties in the house. There might be areas where you have to agree with your wife, because some women also will not like their husband to get so dirty into certain roles that I might not want to discuss here. But there are some women. You mute yourself. Some women also.
Sorry. What are role that would be considered men are dirty to get into?
Okay, like for example, back home we don't have nappy to change. You don't need to wipe the baby bottom. But in Western world there are things like that that are being done, right?
Does that mean we do it because of the diapers? We can't do it even without it?
Back home you cannot. Yeah, back home you cannot. A presidential candidate like Paul Mator cannot. But in Western world, whether you like it or not, you have to. Because one way or another, you are practicing what we call responsible parenting. Because if you don't do it, then how is your child going to know that this is my dad or this is my mom? But again, I was concluding earlier and I came back again because the topic is a bit interesting. And thanks to our sister. So to be honest, I think what our sister is doing is she's starting a discussion. And this discussion has to be honest. It has also, it will also come with critics. We have to criticize what she believes in and what she thinks we can do, and so she will do to us. And then by so doing, we will create a pathway that might change us in 10 years, 20 years from now. Because my son or your son might not behave as you. But if we can show them the way and we can show them that, okay, yes, you are a man and she's a woman, but you don't have to behave like my grandparents were doing. Okay, remember Ambassador Muyong, a managing presidential candidate. The level of violence in Elakona youth around, toward our mothers, toward our sisters, toward our grandmothers. We need to be honest, such must not continue, especially during our lifetime and also after our lifetime when the next generation take over. Komuku Yena, remember, there were times when good boy Beguru get to a level where he has to be so atrocious. Take a time when it can it be years the chip kabit. Years the chip kamut. Do you check a care me? You cannot even Chamanian Nidel Kuli Yen duel, Kialoadu, Chia Yodikaje. Chia and Yotka care, Kayodi chip to care. Okay, so I think these are the things that now Alaman Conte Chanung, Kim Manaconte Chanu. Mecha we Mugame take a gentle toy, can enjoy the toy to go, Kamun Mugame Charia, look at one kid to go, Charia, look at Jabby. Well, Chigaway Kamuniti Bakunen. And then my Lakane Yazgabil. No, you didn't say that. I'm just trying to make it.
Of course, they are saying, yeah, that's true.
We're not saying that.
So
yeah. Go ahead.
We take a ching. We are doing a business. Ching it down in Chinka village. Ka Washington. One we can get police, security. Wouldn't be able to any second. My friend, the Lara was here. Okay. So this is where now Manicon so Manicon keep away wow, come from the morning long I can put come in a long. I want you know Australia, UK, America, Marka Wuni to Japan. So, 11 picture you got Mara. Jin, what the Ranchavital when no con KFC. mi wi kai yo jin gwandit ko kini KFC mi cham rare ching me dan ko ni chicken te go dia ga cham tere in wara. Okay,
Ma
for
go
those
wuna kon ko yo pies chicken you can. So
no
my kid we did.
can the chicken ni ke dirty can ke dirty cham ga ti jara so
Kid I cham.
see that it has gone to that level. Take me I
no, what the point I'm trying to make is you know, to be honest, con chat bokon ka background me, yes, there is a level of violence back home. Me chane benawane, she gonna be carry on. She gonna be carry on. We must be that generation, maybe a lot of one and a tuka con. Ki a tuka manakon ti cheje. Near con can a man con the quan con get it done. Got it.
I think
Be
chicken
violent.
is the least you can find if you don't have weapon. That. Quite a word chicken is the least that you can find if you don't have a weapon. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anime channel ben ka Western world. But take it to go to Banna learn. Kati jeti channel them learn. Very soon, Babana take activists. Maybe near Kirken man con Kirk near con. Typical Benny Albaco Wablaro take a culture, which an bedok, culture it a content. K culture me banna dog, Cherukun Kawai, me Orient, Nangyaka, Africa. Regardless of how many years he or she lives in Africa. Take a culture, meter and culture, which are there now. And that must also apply to Conco, could Kennedy dwere me leather conca Africa. Cook Bokene dwere come a con culture con. But there must be a culture me been redefined through education, through humanity. Mila arje one and a check the era udacham. Chubby years kamut, chubby years kabil. Just because she point the chewy while a kid tala, con chubby way. Okay, come with your third. Can for example, Ambassador Young, me condole and narrating. La one take a teacher which call, do we hear, could be what they have got, and then be a Italian who knew one. And when I call a 30 near cover country and a channel with all me to check it.
Hey, by answer. I don't know, me young now, like King and Garden Janet. What I know for sure, this is kill me Japan Daka, especially. Can tell what all we care talk more. They are not actually adequate. They are not really in a better way. La Maria, Yala Lingon and a to me a lot to do Mukala the go. So chakon deprived of that nuclear gun. Can you determine Guam? I can Latala where they never done non pin agent. They you make a young role and young dan take a bed. Like you and you could be all. You see, from work can young belga young people come more the I will put my yellow condiment con Guam can and now go to America. We're going to lie it right now. You know, that means taking one will con go ahead, sorry.
That's correct. So Jeremy Alarmanan, change is always gradual. But change can never be stopped. When it starts to happen, it must happen. It's just a question of how long will it take. So now, Milim Kona Latke Nimana need to be the BLA. Chijan Karade. Man Kona one, whether Australia, whether a locally Guat out in Perth, Western Australia, Kiaka America Guat in Kiaka UK. Our women right Kakaon and a Canadian Liangako. Take a Tumango to Chuanga called Liangako. And then now the ball is on our court. Are we prepared to listen? Here we just going to continue K village mentality. Jelgakon the one and a chip till a read. Read the new one and in Yadu Quanga while I move Lara by your way. Simple as that. Yeah. So
Paul.
I think I agree with the fact that and let us be honest. Corner of feed get the positive. A chunk take a negative. There might be reason as to why negatives are there. Ko don't banner or educate. But me
Thank you.
banner benke honesty ko banner okay. This area need need a con ko banner change. How long will it take? It is a question of okay. Can I accept? Can I accept? We need change. It will take a while, yes, but we have to accept that we need change. For example, the Western world, what we have on changing, especially con communication. That's number one. We fail in a lot of areas when it comes to communication. Go back home in the communication a word, but go would la get a order. He doesn't want to be held to account. Kata ete kondoran. La would la get a order. Changcha we kwa question it chip abini. Micha we too much be known what to do here because Tika have more powers than her. Care physical power. But right now, whenever people are held to account through talks. Don't take me wrong though. There are women both physically strong that can humiliate a man. So
Well, that is true.
Yeah, Katogo, it's up to you. Didn't put a more book when it's stronger than
you. While I hear when I hear man, the young corner no matter what jet.
Yeah, so it's up to you.
One way, Michelle, I'm gonna call yes.
So take a man who's stronger than men, and take a woman. 95% of men are strong. So it's up to us, and our strength cannot be used to destroy our mothers and our sisters. Take a lot of things to cannot be teach you can't exist, but it is because no one addressed them. And sometimes there are mental issues, there are physical deformities, and a lot of problems that happen because of
Simon.
Yeah. So if I get to one because of our miscalculation, I think these are the things that our mothers are crying for. Anyone go?
Paul, you lad Romnan go bangier. What was about it?
Well, and then a lot of Duman Palea. Aman Palea, you can get it. At least a chunk of out area of Medcom, the bomb. A chunk of major or a German Palea. So, if you don't, with your major or German Palea, what a godly privilege to be born as a man is a mind-boggling question. I am my mother's wildest dream. Wildest dream about dream it. I want to know too. Animal. And brown book by God is not easy. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of thinking. It takes a lot of mental capability, benati, and all of that. I like to call my deal, Bible, powerful. And me another deal is with that zeal of doing things and is accomplished. Now we can see it. Whether it's about a book like 50 Shades of Grey, Shades of Grey, right?
I've heard of it,
and
yes.
Then,
I have heard of it, yes.
Yes, take a book, Madame Bamisha, dark. Yes. Jen, this is the first book, and I believe other books will come. So I want to encourage you to continue giving those books, and also there are also positive things that have been done, and you like women are being beat up. Take a man bomb the Latin go, they can humiliate men. They can humiliate a man that can they can humiliate a man kabom, and so many things. Talk about dong mela torani chola nyanyoj do. Ajane chama ngo ka bom je kai ya go de cha nya bel chon nya. Chon nya won meta jer mete ka bel ke la ko kam
More than
chama ngo ka bom je kai ya. We have women there will be a time where go back and cham take a money cham a bomb and bomb mo me ja ne che me ya la de nyama da ni nya die we can go ahead and encourage them by buying those books, and also on network
network do ngu jo do economy ko ra da
ngu ge je jo I don't know deal je is much better than
it's okay, continue but it leng ba ling ya
me ko ge ngani ko go ran jo da pal pin ka ba da ma manu ba gwa da chok ke te ni so jen te ke nyere te bombom. I remember that Nyagon Mabiel was a very powerful young woman. La Torre, La Tega Liz, but Liz good thing, but Torre Nyagon Mabiel. Chawo, Nyagon Mabiel, Chawo, Tem, Cheke Luzrun, earning a yellow run. No good queen. I'm going to the other bird. Nyagon Mabiel, O Tem, Cheke Luzrun. Kaka la roi che nyama guru queen wal mai changaro tenulu gon nye ko so jen yen it is very important to go in spy ba ye ku chob lere ngani ka go nyama ndani nya diel ke tabisa biel go ko ne go yen nyer bia je chom ka go bok ne ben te che da ne cho ne wa cheling wa gararun ne ganya mer matiang ro da ya la durmug ai cheng mu di mi ya ro durmug ante me nyama da ni nya diel kana bok chere cheng mi ro da ya la durmug ka mok cha jak lora jen men de lat so bia won yam go right te loja ke bok mi ba ke te loja ke ne di ba bok mo ba ko jen te me sha la de ramadong che wo jen mo gor yen me ya ben cha ba nga cha so su gor ye re bo che ke na bi je ana mo let that not be true. Somebody say want to hide something from Sunnis. So please, let's make sure that we find what is in the book. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We actually, it's getting late here, but I want Tapitha to answer all the things that we have put together, but in a very succinct way because we actually running out of time. Thank you. Go ahead, Nadia.
Wow. All of you have spoken areas of concern that I think whenever we have something like this, I could only wish that we begin to talk about this issues basically. So thank you, Simon, too. You highlight very important, areas of problems in our culture. I actually would like to say one of the things that Paul had said is that culture is a continuous thing. So something that changes over time. And I think that you had it even more, Simon, too, that um, it doesn't happen at once, but then it's gradual. And then, but the only problems that is, which you already mentioned, is two things: is that we want change now, but then you also mentioned that our men have problems adapting to the changes that need to take place. So when we look at those problems, we realize that really we're looking at things from different perspective. If we, the women, your women, want change and want it now, and then it's a problems that our men refuse to want it now. But if it is a gradual thing, and then the question remains as though, how does it take us 20 years to learn something as simple as, you know what, we are in America. If I am your wife and I had to be at work at certain time, and that the baby is, has a diaper on her or him, why would it take that much 20 years for you to learn that you just have to change the baby? That does not have anything to do with man, that has nothing to do with woman. So why is that taking us that much time? I think one of the problems we really have to address, it's not about us wanting change right now, is why change can happen. And your arguments is that we as you women are changing the way things used to be. That is the problem. The problem, you don't want the change. The problem with the change that you don't want is that it has already happened. We live somewhere where we no longer, living in the ways that, you go to work and I remain at home and I cook for us. That's not the reality. If we think that that's the reality, at least that doesn't really equate with what is happening. But then,
Before you, I want to add something that that he implied. He said, if our women want us to be white men, they must
yeah.
be white women. So I want you to
That's a very important key in this this discussion as well. You see, there is a problem, and we notice that right away. You see, when we say that women and South Sudanese women should be as exactly as they used to be, that is not the reality on your end. At least if we want to be white women, at least also you also have to be white men. That goes on both ways. What really happens would be, what happened when you marry a white woman as a Noor man, for example? What do you really do? Now, the change that has taken you 20 years to do takes you a minute to learn. Wouldn't that be the truth?
Well,
So, go
can I
ahead.
say something?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when someone drive you every day, you don't know how to drive, right? But when you want to drive, you will know in 2 days because it's you that move that car. That's
Okay.
exactly when
So,
it comes to a
so
white.
at least you're dealing with your instinct because you need that. So the
Yes.
need to change has to be on both ends. It has to be ours just as much as it
No,
should be on your end.
we are not asking for change. We are comfortable, and that's what we
Yep,
are
yep,
saying. You
yep.
guys are right.
Yeah, that's
We
the
are
problem.
comfortable.
You don't
But
want
now,
to be moved
if you want
from
us to
that
change,
position.
yeah, listen. If you want us to change, Simon said we accept we need to change, right?
Mhm.
But at the same token, right?
We
You
want to be like
calling me to
white
change.
men, white
Yes,
women at the same
yes.
time.
If you speak English, I mean, if I speak English, I expect you to answer that in English as well. That's what it meant.
So I think then we have to declare we do not really have any problems because once we identify what white woman really looks like, the question goes back to you. If you want me to be a white woman because I want you to behave like a white man, we have to define what a white woman and a white man does. So the question is, what does that look like for you? And how do as Sudanese women, how do we ask you to be a white man in particular? Because we've just talked about, revealing every issue that we, at least at this point, have encountered. Things like, we now have troubles with, hey, can you sweep the floor? I am not at home. Can you, put the tea together because we have a visitors and I'm just 20 minutes away, I'm driving home, can you do that? Those would then become things that you would normally say your task as a woman, your duty as a woman. But then as soon as you get into a white woman life, you change completely. Now you become a white man in a white woman's household. But the question is we're not asking you to be white men. We're asking you to, yes.
Before you go ahead, the things that you've just alluded to. Sometime one of the main reasons that I've seen from most of our men toward the women demands is that the women are not genuine in asking for these issues to be affected. What we see is that women are just showing off so that they can be seen as on the next level. What do you say about that?
So when you say on the next level, what does that really mean?
It's like you want, for example, a lot of you women, you do it as a show. For example, you want your man to do certain things, not because you are genuine in search for that, but because you want your friend to know, oh, so and so nyangu husband can do this. Nyangu husband can do this. Why not my husband?
Yeah, and that would be a great question.
It's not the change that you are actually, asking. It is a show of change. What would you say about that?
So what I would really say about that is to have that issue in particular discussed in a different ways, right? Yeah. So when we talk about our culture, we're part of the culture is to mute women. We as South Sudanese women have been mute, and we're told that you really can't say what it is that you feel. We discussed this back home, or maybe even now, I don't know, things have changed a little bit, where if you have seen men discussing something, you're not allowed to go around, or you're not allowed or invite to be part of this decision making. So the part of that is to mute us, to have voice that are not practiced in ways we can go ahead and decide what is right and what is not. So when it comes to particularly us, this would be something that we women have to also realize on our ends, and exactly what it really means. Because if personally I can show my next friend that my man does this, that is not a change by itself. Because I think we would then have to look at it as a pride thing. We would look at it as a personal thing. It's Nyebian wanting to be prideful and telling someone else that, oh, my man does this. This is not all of us. This is an issue that is a personal thing. And I'm very aware that this is happening in our society. But I think if we want to really get deep down into that issue, we have to really come out and really tell women that they have to exercise their rights openly, without the need to think that my man is the only person who knows how to do something. Because it's no longer about us changing and us changing you to become what we think will then forward us. But it's just that if I want to have a man and I only have that man that does the right thing, and then I can tell the rest that I, Tabitha, have found a man, and it's because I am a strong woman, I am a wise woman, whatever the case might be. So I think that is a very different issue itself. So
now, to piggyback on what Simon said, let me be practical in an example. And I'm still on that idea of let be all, and actually not the right thing to say white men, because it's not only, you don't have to be white to be seen as you are from here. You also can be black as well. But the point here is this. showing love in our countries and here are two different things. And these are communications that been the problems. Okay? In this country, early in the morning, you go into work, you say, bye, I love you. And that is what they do here. And that's how it's the reality. But is it because, do you think that in South Sudan or in Africa, our men don't love their women? They do. And let me show you how the love is different. In this country here, they will tell you, I love you every single day. And I agree with that. That makes sense. But in South Sudan, the only way to show love that this man loves me, he died for you. And I'm sure you will attest to that. Why? Because it's a man that will fight to save the family. That's the reality. There's no question about it. But in this country, you have problem with another man at your work as a woman. That guy can come and knock the door. The man will say, what do you want? Hey, your wife has done this. Say, okay, let me call her. This is a man in this country. But in our country, a man will not even dare to go call his wife because someone did something. He will do that job over that. The reason I'm giving you this example is that this is how we all both need to be white or both need to be African. Because it's true, there are 90% of things that we need to change, but this 10% also need to be exhibited by you. Because there are some men that love their wife for sure in this country, but they will not have this ability to show it. Even to say I love you is hard for them to say it. You must grow up here to say I love you. And at some point too, a woman will want to hear his man say I love you. In this country, you give your wife a kiss, and we want to give you a kiss in front of people. But in this country, you women say, hey, a man say I love you, right? But when the man goes to give you a kiss in front of the party people, she will walk away. I have seen that already. I think that's what time I meant.
Because that's the part we want to take. There's just, like we discussed that earlier, that there are things we want to change and there's things we're not going to take. It really depends. We're taking, the I love you somewhere, where nobody's watching, and we're refusing the kiss. It's just our way of looking at the culture here. So I don't think that is our problems, and I don't think there are any woman in particular that would say, what, I am going to just divorce my husband because of, he's not adopting the way the white man works. By the way, I love you. We said it in our own ways. It sounds really different. And I love you in more. Will be a lot of it's you guys have no idea. It's so beautiful. We can only wish someone said, but you said it in your own way, like you were saying earlier. So we're really cool with that. But I think our problems are bigger than that. Our problems are things like the lack of communications, as it was mentioned earlier, that we can't talk about the simple things. We can't agree on the simple things because the way they were termed for us is very different. I think we have to really realize that we as Sudanese women, as you guys have spoken about it, we are Sudanese women. We're not into changing our culture. I always said that in order for us to change our culture, we really have to be able to understand everything that the white man does and really come up with something that might not even look like what the white man does, for it to become ours, for it to to sing in our system, because it really doesn't matter. Even the children that were born in this country, they still have what we have, because that's what is kind of just being fed on them each and every day. But then what we're talking about is when it comes to changes or the revisions, I would say, is that if it has to be a white man way of thinking, that he knows, at this time, or there is a particular time, we have to say enough is enough for child marriage. Enough is enough for forced marriage. Enough is enough for normalizing rape and calling the victims the people that have done something, instead of holding men who actually do those things accountable. Enough is enough for domestic violence. I don't think, per se, that we need white men to tell us that. And I think this is one of the areas that frustrates me as a Sudanese woman, that we often think that in order for us to know something is wrong, we must have, come somewhere, or someone have told us in ways that what is wrong is this. I think we're capable of knowing that violence is not good. We're capable of knowing we can, for the longest time, be given our children as 8, our children as 9, as soon as they have their period, and that's when we think that they are ready to be given. But we don't do the same thing for our men. As soon as they how long do we wait for our men to really go and then be married? We know that it takes some of you guys, go all the way to 40 for you to marry. I know, of course, there is some other issues, like, do you have cows to, which then it's a problem itself. We really need to dive into that one. But we don't need white men to tell us that something is wrong. And I think if you really have discovered the point of this discussion, and the point of the book is for us to discuss these issues, that we don't need anybody to come to tell us that, you know what, you got it all wrong. We love our culture. We love it so much that we refuse to be silent. We refuse to be silent about the things that are wrong. And can I tell you this? It's easy to think that, you know what, I have been given an authority as a man to decide how she's going to live, to decide how she's going to behave, to decide where she's going to live. But of course, if all of that is what makes you a man, you know what you have done to yourself? You misled yourself. Because at the end of the day, if I can be the helper, because I know we like that. We like that. We go back to the garden and said, you've been given to me. If we can understand that the point of the helper is to also know something, so then you can be a better version of you. And then we've done nothing, because we becoming weak, we becoming illiterate, we becoming nothing in any way majors, is making you nothing at the end of the day. And we know that, as was mentioned earlier, I think Simon, you mentioned that there are levels of violence when it comes to our culture and the way it's being practiced, that you find men that are very ruthless, that they can just, for whatever reason, personally define that, I'm just going to be very, forwarded to this woman and, beat her with anything. There was a story out of, I think, a Kakuma camp, where a young man killed his wife just because he asked for water, and the water took a minute because the lady had to run to the child who was walking toward the fire. And instead of him thinking that the child has to be rescued first and then the water can be brought to him, he took what he could find and then hit that lady with the tool he found and killed that woman. Now, what do you say about that man? And this is about every man we could know of. And we can say, being in the West and knowing what we know now, and again, I hate to say that, it's not the West that tells us what we now know as something that's wrong. I think you mute yourself if you're talking.
Sorry, I forgot that. It's very gruesome to hear that, but do you know the state of mind that man was in?
Now, that's my point. That I want to come back to that one, because when it comes to the state of the mind, do we really talk about the state of mind? We don't talk about that. If someone is struggling mentally, we don't talk about it, especially when it's a man. So because, if we talk about someone who is, hangry all the time, or someone who just cannot wait or solve problems, what have we learned as people who have gone to school is that there's something beyond what we're physically seeing. So if we can't say that this person is struggling with something else, but just instead we reward this men with more women, that they then later on really force into living a painful life because of that. What really is going on is that as a man, as long as you're able to pay the dowries, you can be any state of mind and you still go away. and have no responsibility. I don't know why it's so hard for our men to realize that we're not talking about a quick fix. We're saying that let's start the conversation, because there is no other ways for us to come to the table and realize what has been going wrong has really been going wrong. And that we as women, as your women, deserve better than what our culture offers us. There's just so many areas that need to be touched. But ways to silence us, guys, is no longer about, you're forcing us or you're wanting this sooner. Yes, it has taken you how long now? 40 years to realize that. And some of you have been educated that long. And yet, a simple thing like, I can't be violent. It's so hard to be figured out. It's so hard for you to realize that we don't deserve that, and that we are, just as you are, human. So we need to talk about those issues. We need to talk about them now. And we're not talking about quick fix, but if we don't start right now, we might not have a chance to do that. Because the problem is our culture that you really loved has already changed. It has already changed. And my fear as Tabitha, as a Sudanese woman, as a Noor woman, I am so afraid that in the next 10 years, you will not believe what it turned into. See, you love the fact that we cannot change into something else, but you already changed. Like I was saying, you be in a white woman household, what do? You do laundry every weekend. You fold the clothes. But as soon as we say, hey, Mr. Toot, can you do that for me? You're like, what? What about the cows? What about Yana Maria? What about Tuncha? What about this and that? So then what then happened with the white woman?
The only thing we have done is actually to create the clothes. We are watching them already.
No, you're not. You're not. You have to do them. But of course, that our problems and what I'm talking about goes deeper than that. It's not just the clothing and things like that. It goes deeper. So I know you know that, and we need to talk about those things.
Well, okay. It's actually 12 in the morning here. It's very, very late. I have kids that are running around because I'm still the studio is loud for them here. So I can realize that, and I'm sorry that this will come to an end. I don't know if you know that's brother Simon. We are moving to a real studio now, so I don't have problems of this little ones running around saying that and all that, and we will be actually having a fixed time. It's 1 hour and will be 1 hour, unfortunately. But it has been my pleasure to host all of you. Tapitha, you are going to Australia,
yes.
and we wish you a great trip. Australia, I've been there before. They are great people. One of them is Simon.
Yay. That's really good.
He received us very, very well. They are very, very nice people. And the time you will spend there will be one of the best times of your life. So, for those who want to buy the book, that is the book right there. You can read it. And I love it. If you have a disagreement, talk to Nyadil. And this is the only way for us to get to where we are going. I want to appreciate you, Nyadil, for coming out, because this is the only way we've been saying that, hey, we want to be like the rest of the world. The rest of the world is there just because their women are there with them. So I do have disagreement with you as well. You know that. But I really, really, really congratulate you for giving yourself a time to write this great book. I want to say thank you so much. And as you change us, you also have to change with us. Having said that, thank you very much, guys. I will see you next time right here on Wednesday. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Jam ya, jawab luar ko dawan kuan mai rot. nhan nhi la chi ban luôn về te ban rau gang real juông về cheleng ron quan maral đi ra jam de de kai ban te ye ayana kola bengar ayana kola bengar ayana kola chirwen la ron quan maral ba jam de de kai ban te ye ayana kola bengar ayana kola bengar ayana kola chirwen kene denga chalu ni bola ini dut nyane galbai ni bola ini dulodi kenyan pain kuilare kulya korom dirla lujbai ni bola ini dut nyane galbai ni bola ini dulodi kenyan pain kuilare kulya korom
Ken makaleng nyada yefil nyada dana don kewi e nyadi tar utara la du jogomo e nyadi tar utara la du jogomo ai nyadi tar utara la du jogomo e nyadi tar utara la du jogomo e chonya kake bandu ke durolan 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 e bere ber wandoni kon ber mandoni kon e bere a chul me ki ganyale sere me yoda doken e nyandita utara la du jogomo e nyandita utara la du jogomo ai nyandita utara la du jogomo e nyandita utara la du jogomo chudan ni maradoran chudan ni mara siendan chudan ni maradoran ne Tegesi to liga to juanu kalau Teka dan nimit ke si belum nyamakarya si belum nyamakarya si belum nyamakarya ejeng diciro ejeng ngoketin si belum nyamakarya nyandita utara la du dogomo nyandita utara la du dogomo ai nyandita utara la du dogomo nyandita utara la du dogomo Ken ke fil bitir ku piti ken man paleng nyada yer fil nyada dana don ke wit e nyandita utara la du dogomo e nyandita utara la du dogomo ai nyandita utara la du dogomo e nyandita utara la du dogomo ye chonya ka ke bandu ke durolan e chonya ka ke bandu ke durolan ye chonya ka ke bandu ke durolan e chonya ka ke bandu ke durolan e bere ber wandoni kon ber mandoni kon e bere e chul me ki ganyale sere me yoda doken e nyandita utara la du dogomo e nyandita utara la du dogomo ai nyandita utara la du dogomo e nyandita utara la du dogomo chudan ni maradoran chudan ni mara siendan chudan ni maradoran ne Tegesi to liga to
Sabaja, shemista la kala, amizonta ni bikore. Salaja, shani gani fibele, alatani ma bikore. Iyaba mardugle na nukara, iyaba dugle na nukara. Anaminati nyandeng minati kerleme, bugule halima nati jumboki, nati nyawaraga nati keji, ashana celebrate. Kalina celebrate, Ashana celebrate, Kulio, Kalina celebrate. Diable fara fikal Alatani ma fikore Anyar kuka kalita kumpumilo Ya shabab kalita kunja Iyaw de hati ya jibna lekum I mean iyaw de huri ya jibna lekum Nam suku matala bubel Nam suku gawi matala bubel Ashana celebrate Kuliyom kalina celebrate Ashana celebrate